Welcome back to the Cheapy Productions podcast. Yeah, I was just saying it was great to have you on the show. Thanks a million for coming on today to talk to me.
No problem.
Yeah. So I suppose the best place to start and the only place to start is the question, how did you get into this world of acting initially?
Well, I was born this way, I got bitten by the actor bug really early. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not Drew Barrymore or something. It's not like you haven't seen me in anything from long ago, but my parents were really great about exposing the culture. We go to the ballet and the theater and the cinema and the opera and you name it. And I just always wanted to be up there. And pretty soon I was. I remember we went to a children's theater performance at the local library, and I was like, that's what I want to do. And I never ever wanted anything else. You go back to my, my parents keep scrapbooks of all my, writings and drawings and whatnot through the ages. And I always all I ever wanted was to be an actress. And sure enough, I soon auditioned for that same little theater company, which happened to also have an agency, a talent agency affiliated. And so kind of I got involved with pretty much any film and television that came through Denver, which wasn't a whole lot. But I did regional commercials and episode of Father Dowling Mysteries. And like I said, as far as Denver was concerned, I was pretty rich and famous. But like I said, had I lived in Hollywood, it would have been a whole other thing. But it was a small, and anyway, yeah, so that's just all I ever knew. I was just sort of the star of all the school plays and regional theater too. And when I left the nest, I was a theater major in college, and 4 years of Chicago winter later, I was over that, came directly to Southern California, where it's sunny all day every day. And I've been here ever since. The rest is history.
Do you remember the first time that you were on stage as a child, I suppose, starting off into that world? Do you have any memories of those early days being in theater?
Yeah, I do. In fact, this is probably the inciting incident, the moment when we knew that I am truly born to do this was, and there was that little theater company at the local library. So I auditioned for that group, not get in. So but they had some creative dramatic classes for kids, and so my parents signed me up for that. And I'll never forget my very first acting class. I remember my mom fed me a nice hearty burger or something, some protein, stick to my bones, so that I was had lots of energy for class. And then sure enough, in class, we're doing kind of like children's theater games, viola spolin style, warm up. So you paint with your right hand, paint with your left hand, paint with your foot, paint with your other foot, paint with your whole body. So pretty soon, and of course, like I said, I am in absolute heaven. I've never been so happy in my life. All I've ever wanted, my whole body, and soon I am vomiting with my whole mouth. That burger came everywhere, and it was the most embarrassing moment ever, and yet I never look back. Anyone with their right mind would be like, that was horrifying, like I'm never going back to that place. But I alternatively was like, that is what I want to do when I grow up. Like I don't care that I'm just mortified in myself in front of strangers, that this is where I'm meant to be. This is what I want to do. And like I said, I look back. I think for a moment, I do recall this one that I had to write where it was like, my name is Naomi Grossman. When I grow up, I want to be, and I said actress or astronaut. So I did have a plan B, right? But very soon after realized or learned that I would have to do math. And that was like, okay, well, there you go. Like, actress it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, in so many ways, so basic. Like I literally set my sights on something and I've never looked another way. In many ways, I feel like I'm very blessed in that regard, because it's like I never had to worry. I never, so many people spend so much time like sort of searching for themselves, and I sort of always, I was been right here. But on the other hand, I do feel like there's so much more out there in the world that I've sort of denied myself. I just decided one day, thousands of years ago, that this is what I wanted to do, and I never looked another way. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah. You can tell by like the way you said that story, and obviously it was like an embarrassing thing that happened, but like from coming across you and watching you kind of through your social medias and your YouTube and your TikToks and that, you're always seem to be in that good energy and good spirit, are you?
Yeah, I am always on. And it's don't get me wrong, it's also exhausting. Like I do live alone. I'm single, I'm an only child. I I get my energy from other people, but I also kind of need my downtime to kind of refresh, because for whatever reason, when I am around other people, it's almost like I feel like it's my lot in life to entertain. Like I was put here to give you a show, and I don't know why. It's kind of like, if you're familiar with the Enneagram, which is sort of a personality test, and there's the boss, there's the caretaker, there's the we all fit into one of those slots, and I am unequivocally the performer. I am always singing and dancing, like in one way or another. That's sort of how I view myself and my how I occupy space in this world. So yeah, it is what it is. I definitely got the note, like, you can just calm down. Like you don't have to, be on all the time. But I'm like, but I kind of do. Like, that's me.
Yeah, it's just who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was reading, obviously, in your...
I was just going to say, I also kind of joke that, I mean, we've all heard of, like, pray the gay away or whatever. Like, when people are like, no, you're just born that way and it is what it is. I kind of often feel that, like, is akin to being gay. Believe me, there's a million times I'd love to have just prayed the performer away, but like, I was just born this way. It is what it is. Like, you gotta love yourself. No one else will.
Exactly. I was reading online that you've done a lot of commercials in your early years. Is there any kind of standout commercials or something that stand out to you? Any funny ones that come to mind?
No, I mean, one thing that's kind of funny but also kind of tragic is I'm kind of the kiss of death for commercials, actually, at least of late. It seems like the last, I mean, several commercials I've gotten, we shoot it and then the product either is discontinued or the company goes out of business or they decide not to run it. Like it's happened like the last, I don't know, I want to say 4 times I've booked like a nice commercial, which at least once upon a time meant, oh, you're set, you know, you're gonna send your kid to college kind of money. And yeah, I don't know what to say. I always say to the other actors on set, like, I'm sorry, like, this, by the way, will probably not run. We're gonna get a nice payday and then just watch, because that's what happens when people book me in a commercial.
Yeah. Can you talk to me about the Groundlings? And I seen on your YouTube you have some clips of that show, just maybe for people over here that might know what it is. And it's obviously kind of spawned onto different kind of famous TV shows over there. Can you describe to us what that is or was?
Yeah, the Groundlings is a theater on Melrose Avenue in Los Angeles. Sort of home of a ton of very famous sketch comedians and improvisers. It was the birthplace of, let's say, Pat, if you remember from SNL, or Elvira started there. Pee Wee Herman was born there. So, and when I say born, I just mean you kind of get the idea.
Yeah.
All these characters have nothing to do with each other. They're all very comparably, like, kind of over the top, big, comedic, kind of sketch, you know, not subtle, like super, you know, over the top comedy. You know, Phil Hartman, Lisa Kudrow, Will Ferrell, Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig. I mean, you name it, you know, those covered kind of like mine, only with, you know, just photos of all the, you know, famous comedians that have come out of there. They basically have shows there, live shows. It's like a, I don't know, 99-seat theater. It's not a large theater, but they have both sketch and improv shows that happen 5 nights a week at least, and then they have a school. And so, you know, I through the school, I learned improv there, and then I was a part of the Sunday Company, which is basically the top level of the school. That's before you become a quote unquote groundling. So yeah, it's just as, you know, as theater schools, or I'm sorry, as comedy schools go, it's probably the most prestigious. You know what I mean? Like if you're trying to be a lawyer, you want to go to Harvard Law. You know what I mean? If you're a businessman, you go to Wharton. If you're trying to be a, you know, on SNL, you go to Groundlings. You don't get like the same kind of fancy degree, but it's not going to guarantee you anything. But yeah, for a while, you know, was just sort of, it was kind of this SNL factory, and I did sort of very naively go into it thinking that that was going to be my, you know, that was going to be the obvious route. And then, you know, well, didn't quite work out that way. But, you know, I also can't argue with the way things have worked out for me. So I think ultimately I've I always felt that that this business is so hard. You really kind of do have to you got to get a gimmick. So figure out what it is you do, your niche, and really hone that. And I always figured that was comedy. And as it turns out, I'm not saying it's not, but as it turns out, horror has reached me in a way, you know, comedy never did. Now I see in retrospect, it's not so much comedy that is my niche. It's big characters. And let's face it, that's what the Groundlings do. That's what Elvira and Pat and Pee Wee Herman are all about. But it's also what Pepper and Freddy Krueger and Jason are about too. You know what I mean? Both horror and comedy and all the shades of gray in between. It's all about characters. So I think ultimately I kind of what is that expression? Cut my nose to spite my face. Like I was was so laser focused on comedy that I didn't see what else was out there. But like I said, fortunately it found me anyway.
Yeah. American Horror Story. I bet you didn't think we were going to talk about that today.
Of course. I mean, come on. Yeah,
Yeah. Were you a fan of the show before you were involved in it, and had you have seen any of it before then?
No. I think it only had aired one season when I auditioned, and I got the call one day, and the very next day I was in. So I didn't even have a chance to watch any. I did entrust a certain friend of mine who is very, he watches everything. He kind of gave me the rundown. Of course, that didn't really help me. You know what I mean? Like knowing it was set in this haunted house and with all these, creatures, and like none of that mattered. I suppose maybe knowing that Jessica Lange starred and that it had this very kind of the tone of the show. I had a vibe of like, I mean, that's important. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna act a certain way opposite Jessica Lange than you are, let's say, Adam Sandler. You know what I mean? I mean that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand now Adam Sandler's doing all kinds of like dramatic roles as well. But in general, if somebody tells me, "Oh, it's a Jim Carrey comedy," well, then I'm gonna turn it up a certain, And then if it's a Judi Dench film, you kind of you have to kind of calibrate your energy, the tone according to the tone of the show. So I knew a little something, but no, I hadn't watched. It wasn't until well after I was cast that I remember binging it like on my laptop, like in bed. And I'm terrible. If it is not uncommon for me, the minute the lights go out, like I go out. Like if I'm, you see how kind of high energy I am. Well, it's exhausting, and the minute I'm still and it's dark, I'm out for the count. So yeah, there were many a sort of sleepless night where I would wake up, and then and something like horrifying would be happening on the screen, and I was like, ah, what have I signed on to? So yeah, I had kind of a restless summer leading up to shooting, but yeah.
Yeah. Talk to me about the audition process for the role, and then the kind of what you knew about the character, and then obviously you needed like your head shaved and a lot of makeup work done and stuff like that. What did you kind of know after the audition, and how was the audition?
Yeah, I didn't know much of anything before the audition. The audition consisted of a monologue of Jessica Lange's and an improv. They gave me a ball and they asked me to play with, or try to get them to play with me. And of course, I didn't know what the heck that meant. But they were, according to the breakdown, that is the thing that basically gets sent out to all the agents and managers of Hollywood electronically, that lets them know what they're quote unquote looking for. They said they were seeking a 4 to 5 feet tall, possibly mouth childlike actress. So again, as a broad sketch comedian, I can do that. I can do anything. Like I mean, that's the beauty of being me. Like I'll get calls for like 90-year-old British woman living with a one eye and a cleft palate, living in the 1400s. Like, okay, whereas, friends of mine, blonde, beautiful, kind of dramatic types, just get blonde, beautiful, dramatic types, whereas I tend to kind of, I'm the one they call when they don't know what they want. When they're like, meh, we could go for the Asian giant. We could go for the black little person. Like, we don't know what we want. Interesting types, please. And like, I come in and there you go. But so yeah, I mean, I am 5 feet tall, so I managed to just squeak by. Childlike, I mean, again, that's something I can play. It means I know not to wear like a plunging neckline or booty shorts. You know what I mean? I need to look as sort of sweet and innocent as I can. Malformed, I mean, I can't do that like without being horribly offensive. Like, so I just have to trust, figure. Casting has only so many slots, right? Because there's only so much time in the day. And so if they've given you a slot, that they think conceivably you could do the part. So it's up to us actors to just trust and say, you know what? They know that I am, fully formed, and that's not a deal breaker. So just go in, instead of worrying about like booking the part, book the room. You know what I mean? Like, if they don't like you for this, they'll remember you for the next one. And so that's kind of what I did. I do remember kind of driving away from the audition thinking, oh, really, Naomi? Like, that's the part you nail? The one you couldn't possibly book? Only because, again, I was kind of judging based on the my competitors in the room. I could see the waiting room, this like sea of little people, and I'm like, oh man, like, what am I doing here? Like, and they're all looking at me too, like, what are you? Who are you? You're like this Amazon, like, get out of here. So, but it all worked out. Who knew?
Yeah. And then being in that horror community now, it's an interesting kind of community in terms of you probably get to do a lot of conventions and things like that these days. What's it like being involved in the horror world, in the convention world? Because it's kind of like a hidden gem for people that don't know about it.
It really is. I didn't even know this existed until I was all of a sudden in the middle of it. It's such a cool community. I mean, on every level. I've got the kind of my usual suspect celebrity friends who I see on the road. Like, we've never actually hung out in Los Angeles, but I'm sure I'll see them in West Virginia this weekend, just like I saw them in where was I the weekend prior? I don't even remember, but that's just our lives. And then of course there's the fans who are so amazing. I mean, where would we be without our fans? Like, nowhere.
Yeah.
Home.
Yeah.
Home.
I picked out two interesting things from your online work, and I just seen that you were in Hell's Kitchen in 2017, and I was like, what did you do there?
Oh, that was just like my publicist called and was like, would you like to, would you like to have dinner? Gordon Ramsay wants to cook for you, whatever. So yeah, I went to Hell's Kitchen, and they always do that. They need to pad the room with certain recognizable faces so they can like cut to, oh, so-and-so you might recognize from such and such. It's not like I did anything other than treat some friends of mine to a delicious dinner.
Yeah. Did you get to meet the man himself?
I didn't actually. I mean, they're busy. They're very busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I seen this interesting thing because I was looking through what projects you might have coming up, and I just seen one that I love shark movies, right? And I seen Sky Sharks, and I was reading up the bio about it. I haven't seen it yet. Is it worth watching?
You know, I haven't seen it yet either, but I have consciously stayed away. It's mostly green screen, like CGI. Uh, you know, I have a feeling it's gonna be like well, maybe not Cats, but you know, it's one of those like so bad it's good. You know what I mean? Like drink
Yeah.
every time they say shark. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna be one of those like. I mean, like I said, I don't want to flatter myself by saying like cult classic, but it's one of those like back when I was a kid going to slumber parties, like in the 80s, we would have loved this, like, because it's just that bad.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a market for that though. It seems like with movies like Sharknado, and then when Piranha came back and the Hoff was in it and stuff like that. There's a kind of a market for cheesy, over the top horrors that you don't really don't need to take seriously, like, but can enjoy them.
Right. Yeah,
So I'm gonna put that.
yeah, I mean, listen, it's not gonna kill my career. It's also not gonna make it.
I'm gonna put it on the watch list.
I do like the way you say it. Your accent, sky sharks.
Diddly-eye,
Includes
diddly-eye,
all the
diddly-eye.
vowels in, you know, like sky sharks. Is it nearly as interesting as sharks? I don't know.
Maybe they might get me to narrate the second one, possibly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What kind of projects are you working on at the moment or have coming up?
Let's see. I in the last little bit, I did a movie with Mickey Rourke called Replica, which
Nice.
it's a drama. I play a neo-Nazi meth head. So another vast departure from myself, thank God.
Yeah.
I also I did a children's movie about a month ago in Florida called Pet Detectives. I think that might change names though, so you know, keep your eye out for it. It's a cute movie. And you know, I think it's cool to do something that's not horror just because people aren't expecting that. This was a fun comedy with Sean Astin from Stranger Things and Goonies and Lord of the Rings. What else? David Faustino from Married with Children. Corin Nemec from Stargate. And then, of course, a bunch of kids and a bunch of pets. So that's fun. I've got a couple other, mostly horror films that I'm slated to do later this year. But, you know, I suppose I could talk about it. But until my work is done, like until it's in the can, it's like anything could happen too, you know. So I know you know, I have, you know, shot. They are in editing, and we should see them, you know, sooner than later.
Excellent, excellent. And for people that want to catch you on social medias, where's the best place to get you, and what's your handles for them?
I'm on all social media platforms. Naomi W Grossman is my handle. It's actually it's Naomi Grossman on TikTok, but everywhere else I've got that W in there. I've got the blue check mark everywhere, so you'll know it's me.
Yeah. Naomi, that was a great chat today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to talk to me.
Oh, thank you so much. I enjoyed your accent.
At least somebody does. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I was gonna say I bet your totally unappreciated there.
Thank you.